presentation is led by Nora.
Good morning to everybody. I am going to ask you to close your eyes, please, and feel comfortable. Open your legs and your arms. And breathe. And feel your body sitting in the chair. Feel yourself. Connect with you, with your heart, with your soul. Breathe again. And open yourself to perceive and imagine. Imagine day is finishing. Imagine a wonderful sunset, as usually we have in this beautiful town. Day is dying. And with this day, also a part of you with it. And feel again what I did, what I've been creating in my life. In the past, did I say enough to the ones I love? I love you. Did I have enough hugs, and joy, and laughs? Did connect enough with other human beings? Really connect? Breathe. And feel, sense your emotions. Now, night is dying to allow the new day born again, exactly as we do in the cycle of life. And for this newborn, let it go. Breathe. And with every breathing, let it go. What you don't need anymore in your life, let it go. In the way to start fresh and light. The new day is here. Open yourself, connect with yourself, and share with other human beings. Go a little bit beyond and create how to today you can celebrate your life. And now, open your eyes to the gratitude to be alive.
Thank you, Nora. Our presenter today is Loretta Downs. She's going to talk about 7 practices for creating peaceful transitions through life and death. I believe she has some handouts under the tree that you could collect after her talk. She's a nationally recognized speaker, writer, and consultant on the subject of supporting the end of life. She holds a master's degree in gerontology, founded Chrysalis End of Life Inspirations, is past president of the Chicago End of Life Care Coalition, and she raises monarch butterflies in the summer. Tomorrow she has to fly back to Chicago. Loretta Downs.
Thank you, Margaret. Your quotes reminded me that human beings have been dying for a very long time, I think, like millions of years. Interestingly, at this time of our lives, we don't think we do die, though, right, in this generation. And thank you very much. Letting go and gratitude are part of my short list of practices. I do raise monarch butterflies in the summer, and they are the most marvelous symbol of transformation that exists. An egg turns into a caterpillar, turns into a chrysalis, this still stage in which the transformation to a butterfly occurs. And one day a little trapdoor opens on a chrysalis, and this beautiful, amazing creature that looks like nothing it was before emerges. Did I just... If at any point in time my sound goes off, let me know. Thank you. Emerges. And I raise them in my kitchen in containers, and I watch this butterfly take its first flight. And this butterfly had been a chrysalis, had been a caterpillar. You know, we're all like that. And this particular group, I've got to tell you, I've realized that not only are you adventurers, you're revolutionaries. I'm so glad to be here today, I can't tell you. Because I don't normally get a whole group of people that are as like-minded about doing things differently than the general population. For the first time in the history of humanity, we have an entire generation of people living over the age of 85. That's never happened before. And that cohort of social group has no role models for living that time in their lives. How many of you are over 85? Trailblazers. None? No one here is over 85? They didn't get up this early morning. It's a good thing. You're the survivors. Are you kidding? You're like the Olympians of old age. We need to be drinking your blood. Healthy ones. You know, someone said that the slowest way to die is stay healthy. It's true. But on the other hand, the next generation, you know, the 60 to 85-year-olds, of which I'm a member, how many of you are in that cohort? Yeah, right. You know, we don't have role models either. We're forging whole new, look at this, retirement plans, or someone's calling it reprioriment. They're trying to give a new name, right? Reprioriment. It's a good thing. We're doing things differently than have ever been done before. Well, there's something else that's happening that's never been done before, and that's the contemporary end-of-life experience. It's like never before in the history of mankind. We always died fast. You know, you get hit with an arrow, or an animal would eat you, or you get in an accident, or some primitive tool you were using backfired and chopped you, or you get an infectious disease. Both of my grandfathers died in the flu epidemic of 1918, when millions of people died from the flu. People used to die because we didn't have penicillin. You know, things that we go into the drugstore and buy off the counter used to be precious. They didn't even exist at one time. But consequently, what's happening to us? We're having this really long and often very hard dying experience. And I have to say, if we all have to die, it can't be a bad experience. It has to be something really meaningful in our lives. Meaningful for us as the person who's going to leave, and meaningful for the people we leave behind. I've been a hospice volunteer for almost 30 years. I've been with AIDS patients and hospital patients and nursing home residents dying and people at home. And they taught me so much, these teachers. And it's they who gave me these 7 practices that I'm going to share with you today. But even with all those years of experience and watching both of my parents live the end of their lives and some friends much younger than I am, how many of you have lost friends younger than you? Every one of us. How many of you have lost children already? Or grandchildren? You know? This is part of life. And we need to be facing it. We need to be supporting it like the branch supports the chrysalis. That stage of transformation that is so important not only to the butterfly, but all the people who appreciate and enjoy the butterfly. For us, we need to be learning that. And it struck me most, the Thanksgiving after my mother died, and I thought I knew all, I've been doing this, I'm writing, I'm speaking, I'm giving talks. I'm out there, I'm educating, I'm reading books, I'm getting degrees. But the Thanksgiving after my mother died, I sat around the table, and there were 12 of us, from my 22-year-old godson on his way to Iraq with the Marines, over to my 92-year-old Aunt Vera, who was the last of my mother's 5 siblings to be surviving. And the head of the house said grace, and he said, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Give me the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And suddenly, I've heard that prayer a million times, but suddenly, I was worried about Sean going to Iraq and about Aunt Vera, and I suddenly realized, one of us at this table will be the first to die, and one will be the last. That's a fact. I can't change that. And I could be either. And just as I had that thought, they started passing the food, and I got back into the present minute and put that on my back burner and said, I don't want to think about that. I could die today even. But driving home, the thought came to me, and I realized that accepting what is how you change everything. And think about it. Think about cigarettes, seatbelts, and condoms. How many of you remember when cars didn't have seatbelts? Right on. Now, if I get in a car and don't put it on, I actually feel naked. Anybody else? Yeah, it's the weirdest thing to drive without a seatbelt. Change, big social change. Cigarettes, and the United States was the last country to make seatbelts a requirement. That was in 1984. Cigarettes, we've been labeling cigarettes since 1965. And in 1965, 43% of the adult population of this country smoked cigarettes. How many of you used to? Yeah, breakfast used to be cigarettes, a cigarette and a cup of coffee was breakfast. Yeah, a lot, okay. 18% of adults in America smoke today. Big social change. Condoms? How many of you remember when they were behind the pharmacy counter and you were even embarrassed to go? Hey, admit it, come on. You're the good guys. Yeah. Well, today they're hanging in the grocery stores and the drugstores. Maybe not in Mexico, but in the right there. The condom business is a $430 million business, and they're starting to advertise competing condom manufacturers on Facebook. These are social revolutions. And I'm going to charge you today, I'm not done yet, I'm charging you, pay attention, to be the revolutionaries to change the way we die. We have got to start dying more gently. We have got to start dying more consciously, and we have got to start dying with each other, holding each other. Please. And now, how many of you are baby boomers? 1946 to 6. Okay, we're loud. We did a lot of stuff. We've changed a lot of things. We got us out of Vietnam. We're doing things. Because we're all going to die. One of us in this beautiful open circle will be the first, and one will be the last. So if I'm the first, I'm driving home, I'm thinking, ooh, I better start preparing. What does that mean? Well, I just figure I need to get a lawyer and write out a will. I have a lot of stuff. Less than I used to, though. I know you all do. Right? That's a beautiful thing about changing your location. So preparing. I miss my birth. I don't want to miss my death. I want to be there. So I figured I set Valentine's Day as a deadline. I took care of my legal stuff, and then I got into this healthcare advanced directives business. Now, you've all heard about this. It's become a big political issue. Should we pay our doctors to talk to us about dying? No, let's pay our lawyers, not our doctors. We need to be talking to our doctors about this. And most of them don't even want to talk about it. In my house, when the subject of death and dying came up, my father would always say, oh, just bury me in the backyard. Anyone hear something like this? Yeah, it's like the end of the discussion. We never talked about it. So when Daddy died, we didn't know what to do. It's not like we had any practice with my father dying. You know? None of us get practice with the loved ones we have to leave. So he had not as good a death as he would have had. And I said, well, that's it. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to select someone to speak for me if I can't speak for myself. I'm going to write that down in a healthcare power of attorney, and I'm going to talk to her. Now, my sister would be the likely person. She's 15 years older than I am. And when I called her up and said, Dolores, I want you to be my power of attorney for healthcare, she shuddered. Loretta, you're my baby sister. I don't want you to ever die. So I said, well, then you can't have my power of attorney. That's not going to work. 1/3 of spouses do not pick their partners because it's either too burdensome, a choice for them to make, or they don't trust them. Simple as that. So I picked a good friend. It's really important for us to pick someone to speak for us in case we can't. Because I could fall here right now and hit my head and not be able to talk to the doctors, and someone would have to say what I wanted done. And what if this were serious? Yeah. You need to talk. Don't say just bury me in the backyard. Conversations. There is a revolution going on now, and on the back of the handouts you have this morning, there are all sorts of resources you can go to that will teach you how to have these conversations with your family and with your doctors. Start the talk. There are people having death cafes, inviting friends over to their houses and talking about end-of-life things. What a concept. You know, it's like talking about sex. Anybody here talk about sex? We talk about sex now. So let's talk about this. Because when we talk about it, we take the fear out of it. It's not so fearful. And then we can change it. Is that accepted? So accepting what is, preparing for it, making your decisions, sharing the journey. You know, the best way to learn how to do something is to watch somebody doing it. It's much easier. How many of you came down here because someone was here before you came? Right. It was much easier, wasn't it? Showing up, you had a sense of what was going to happen here. I have a friend who invited me to come. I love it here. This is just such an amazing place, and that's why I think you have something special here, together. And those of you who go back and forth can bring this with you. You know, this is sharing the journey. How else are we going to learn how to die if we don't watch people doing it? Not on television. They die with makeup on. Well, the eyelashes, they're all wearing eyelashes now. And you notice that? Eyelashes. Not me. You know? 85% of the people who get CPR on TV survive. The truth of that is it's less than 1%. And if you're frail, old, and have a lot of chronic diseases, it's 0. You know? We have to understand this. We don't know that. We think we're invincible because all the examples we're given are either violent deaths, you know, click through the channels, CSI, well, the news, my God, I can't even watch the news anymore. Yeah, we need to be sharing the journey with each other and being there and be that support for the chrysalis stage and hold each other's hands like we used to. How many of you want to die at home? Be honest, come on, how many of you want to die at home? Well, all right, you have to admit you're going to die. So if you're going to die anywhere, you have 3 choices pretty much. Home, the hospital, or a nursing home. How many of you want to die at home? See, now when you know what your choices are, that's called informed consent. How many of you would really want to die in the hospital? Not too many. 70% of us are dying in hospitals and nursing homes today. 70%. Even though on survey, 80% of us say we want to die at home. That's because we're not preparing. We're not talking about it. We're not making the arrangements that can help us do that. And we can. More of us can die at home. And for some people like my mother who couldn't stay at home, she had to move to a nursing home. She required more care than I could give her. And we had a little bit of a strenuous relationship to complicate that. But as another testimonial to the power of the end of life, it's a great opportunity for transforming everything, for healing all your childhood wounds, transforming your relationships, You know, there are 4 things we all really want to say to each other before we die. I love you. What an opportunity. I love you. I'm so sorry for everything I've ever done to hurt you. You know, I forgive you for all the things you did to me. Thank you for being in my life. Goodbye. We can't say those if we don't acknowledge the fact that we're dying, that someone's dying. And that's why understanding palliative care and hospice is really critical to a peaceful transition at the end of life. You know, palliative care is a medical specialty like nephrology and oncology and pediatrics, but it's only 3 years old and there aren't a lot of doctors going into it because there's no money in it. They're giving comfort. Not a lot of money in saying, have some chicken soup, take massages, and put some peaceful music on, you know? I mean, I was just sick. All right, how many of you when you're sick eat toast? Poached eggs? Chicken noodle soup? Right. Ice cream? Popsicles? That's palliative care. You don't get that in the hospital, right? No, we need to be understanding what palliative care means. It means quiet space, soft lights, warm blankets, someone holding your hand, rubbing your feet. I want my feet rubbed. Now, my advanced directives are very specific. I say I want my eyeglasses on because if I open my eyes, I won't be able to see who's looking at me, and I want to know. So it says, put my glasses on me. It says, I want chocolate ice cream, not vanilla, if I can eat any of it. Vanilla? I'm a chocolate girl. I want socks on my feet. Nobody knows that. I have cold feet all the time. They don't know that. My sister, I live alone. Nobody knows it. Well, not all the time anymore. But, you know, I fell in love last year. I fell in love last year. I'm 63 and a half. I fell in love last year for the first time in a long time. And the man I'm involved with has 1 son. He had 2 sons. One died 2 years ago. And he understands, but when I met him, I said, do you have your advanced directives done? He's like 2 weeks into it. My boyfriend. And he said, I said, who is it? And he went, oh, I got to change that because it was my predecessor. The good thing about all these documents, you can change them anytime you want, as long as you're well and able. You can change them anytime you want. Just rip one up, make a new one, date it. And the other thing is that that's a good thing. And so he did, and it's made us actually grow closer. Because every time I look at him and I say, you know, one day we won't be together. And it just makes me love him harder. It's a good thing to be aware of this and to have these conversations. I've worked with families, people that have been married 50 years and have never talked about dying. 60, never talked about it. It is so painful and hard to lose someone when you think you're never going to lose them. And talking about it while you're healthy is healthy. It's very simple. Looking at your kids. Let them, you know how hard remember when you lost your parents, how hard that was on you? It's going to be hard on your kids, no matter what your relationship with them is. And sometimes it's harder on them if it's a challenged relationship than if it's an easy and loving one. They owe that. They deserve that. We owe it to them. I have nieces and nephews that are really attached to me, and I remind them. You know, I talk about my advanced directives, which also say that my girlfriends are supposed to come with tweezers and pull my chin hair. That's in writing. I'm vain. I'm going to be vain until that last breath. So sharing the journey is really important. And then because we have to let go. We have to let go. Now, you're all here, you've practiced letting go because you've left your houses. I'm here with 1 suitcase for a month. I never thought and I haven't even worn half my clothes. I can't believe it. I came with no baubles. They told me Mexico's dangerous, don't bring shiny things. Next year they're coming. But letting go, we have to practice. Because when you hold on to anything and you hold on tight to it, you know what happens? It starts hurting your hand. whatever. If you're holding on to attitudes that don't serve you well, beliefs that don't make sense anymore at this time in your life or in your whole life, people that are toxic for you, people that don't bring you alive, things, stuff, let go of it. Practice letting go of it, because eventually you're going to have to let go of some hard things. Your partner, your mother, your child, your best friend. We're going to have to let go. It's going to happen. And ultimately, you've got to let go of yourself. You have to. You have to get out of that chrysalis one day and fly like a butterfly. You have no choice. So practice letting go. And after you let go, let yourself grieve. You know, for crying out loud, our society, grieving is not cool. Remember when people used to wear black and everybody was, you treated them differently? They got respect in a different way. Oh, they're grieving. You can empathize. You can understand. Well, today, you have to, you're either your parent or your spouse. You get three days off of work, maybe. But what if your best friend of 40 years dies? What do you get from it? You don't get any you don't get any sympathy. You don't get any understanding, right? I'm thinking we're wearing all these little, pink ribbons for cancer and stuff. Why don't we get little black ribbons for when someone we love dies, so other people know we're grieving? We're not normal for a while. Grieving is as natural as breathing. Elephants grieve. They grieve when their children die. Animals grieve. We grieve. We have to grieve. It's part of the healing. It's part of our growth process. When we're born, we come in empty. We come in totally empty. We're dependent on help. We're dependent. And I get all these, I study, I went to school again. It wasn't easy, I'm glad I did that. And all the charts, they start, you're up here and you decline, right? All the charts are like that. I think that's hooey. I think it's the other way around. We start here and we go up. Because I came into this world empty like every one of you, and I'm spending my life filling my cup. I'm filling my soul. I'm filling me. And when I'm full, I'll fly out. It'll go over and I will let go and leave. And I hope it's a long way from now, though. You gotta grieve. Gary Fish is here. He is an Ajijic resident, and he wrote a wonderful book. Actually, what he did was printed the journal that he kept for 3 years after his wife died. And it's raw and honest and tender and loving and beautiful. And it's something we all go through, but we don't talk about, especially men. And I encourage you, Gary Fish, Grief, if you Google that, you'll find out where you can get the book. There are lots of books. We need to be reading more. How are you going to learn? Yes, watch people do it, but read about it. And grieving is so healing. Live with your open hand and heal your grief. And then the last practice, and Nellie said it today, gratitude. Who knows what gratitude is? Yeah, right. Thankful for something that didn't come to you directly. Gratitude. It's another one of the 12 steps that goes with that serenity prayer. And I know that serenity prayer for a lot of reasons, but partially when my dad died, my grief program was the martini program. Yeah. And then after I realized the martini program was really bad for me, I got into the chocolate program for about 30 pounds worth. But was I grieving my dad? No. And then I got into a couple other things that I don't want to reveal to a whole room full of people. And bad grief plan. Eventually I got into exercise and planting trees when someone died, writing about it. One of the things, I'm going to back up a minute, sharing the journey with people. When you can't be there, it's really hard. And I know a lot of you don't. The people that you love, a lot of the people you love are far away. How many of you have children that are in other states? Yeah. In my crowds, even when I'm home in the States talking, the kids are not there. We're a mobile society. And we just don't live in the same place that our families do. We create families wherever we go now. right? Which is another wonderful thing about Ajijic Lakeside. Great family connections, new family connections. But when someone you love is dying and they're not close by, you can keep the vigil with them anyhow. Set up a little space in your house. Put a picture of them, something that reminds you of them, something they gave you, a candle, some flowers. Keep the awareness of their existence very present and send them loving energy. Send them wishes for a peaceful transition. Send them your love, because we feel that. Have any of you ever thought about somebody and the phone rang and it's them? Yeah. Or you get a letter from somebody that you were just thinking about. Or how many of you have heard, oh, Martha waited until so-and-so came from Seattle before she died? Yeah, right. Because that energy is connecting us. So even if we're not nearby, we can think about the people we love that we want to be with. And another thing about hospice and palliative care that's important, when a person, right now, 35% of the hospice patients are only in hospice for fewer than 7 days. 35%. And that's not good. The benefit lasts 180 days. The median stay is 20 days. Now, that's not long enough to really get ready for what you need. One of the big benefits of going into hospice is it alerts everybody else, right? You hear somebody you love is in hospice, better do something, right? Better either, should I go there or should I Skype somebody? Now we have Skype. How wonderful is that? I've been Skyping with my boyfriend. How wonderful. Hospices are using Skype in their inpatient units to get families to connect during a vigil. How many of you have ever kept vigil during the last couple of weeks of life of somebody? All right, while your hands are up, would you agree with me that it was transforming for you?
Yeah.
Transforming. Now, those of you who were there, is there anyone who became more afraid to die because you watched somebody die? Yes? Really? Natural death or a hospital death? A hospital death, right. Yes, that made you more afraid. It's true. Yeah. And vigil, something else we need to know. People start dying naturally when we stop eating, just like the caterpillar stops eating before it comes to chrysalis. That's the natural process of dying. And after that happens, usually 2 weeks is the outset for someone to do. I had a hospice patient, Bessie, she was 97 years old, living in a nursing home, and she was on hospice for maybe 6 months, and she said, this is taking too long. Why is this taking so long? And I kept saying, Bessie, it'll be what it'll be, you'll die when you're ready to die. It's taking too long, I'm ready. And she fell and broke her hip, and she had the surgery, she didn't want it, and she's in the hospital, and she pushed her tray away and said, I'm done. I'm not going to eat or drink anymore. Take me home. I'm dying. It's like, oh my God, everybody was really upset because she, A, had the decision-making capacity to do that, and B, that she was still alive. So she went back, and for 13 days, she lived on sips of water. We offered her food. She said, oh God, the thought makes me nauseous. You thirsty? Well, I am a little thirsty. Have a drink. Oh, it'll take too long. Oh, Bessie, have a little drink. And she, 13 days. She was talking until 2 hours before she flew. Amazing. And, my mother had a stroke, and her final vigil time was 8 days, and she slept through most of it peacefully and beautifully. Opened her eyes before she left and looked at me, and I said, I know you have to go. I know you have to go. It's okay. She left. Sometimes we need to do that too. Sometimes we need to give permission to people. The people who love us are holding on to us. Think about it. The person who's dying, we're saying goodbye to one person. Everybody who files through goodbye here. That person is saying goodbye to everybody. And everything they know. That takes a lot of energy. That's why we need this time. That's why the hospice alert is so important. People, hey, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. Come and do what you need to do with me. Come and love me. Come and say those 4 things. Let me say them to you. Connect. And then feel that gratitude. Oh my gosh, you got to have that experience. You know, and if any of you have had, right now, you may be feeling things that come up because you didn't do something or you couldn't do something that I'm saying we need to be doing. Hey, it's all done. We do the best we can. When we're dealing with somebody, we're loving somebody at the end of life, we're in a crisis. Like I said earlier, that's one thing you don't get to practice. Losing your mom, your dad, your husband, your wife, your lover, your best friend, your siblings, your kids. We don't get to practice that. And it's different every time anyhow. Forgive yourselves. If there's anything you're thinking I should have done, I wish I had done, forgive yourself and let go. And thank yourself for being conscious enough to want it to be better. Because that's the revolution I want us to make. We are going to revolutionize the way we all end our lives, the experience at the end. And that includes more choice. Now, right now, 3 states have legal aid in dying. Vermont is considering it, where doctors won't be punished for giving prescriptions to people who want to die a little sooner than their disease might make them die. You know, there's some very painful finales. This is something we need to consider as an option. There's people who want that choice should be able to have it. And then we can be grateful for all of our lives and knowing that the very bottom of it is going to be absolutely spectacular, like Stephen Jobs. Anybody hear how, as he lay dying, surrounded by his family, he was 54 years old, had the world to buy everything, huh? Now, laying there, surrounded by his family, he looked past his family and he said, wow, oh, wow, wow, and died. And the last thing I want to say to you is a quote from the poet Rumi. Life gives us 2 great gifts, love and death. And mostly they're passed on unopened. Open those gifts. Thank you very much.
Somebody will raise your hand, someone will bring you the mic, stand and deliver.
Just a real easy question. What are the 3 states that have assisted dying? You mentioned others.
Washington, Oregon, and Montana. And the state of Oregon has had the law for 15 years now. And they have statistics that they have been keeping very carefully because this has been watched. And you can go to the State of Oregon Death with Dignity Law website and you'll get all the information you would want on it. Thank you.
What was that question again?
Which states have legalized physician aid in dying? No, I can't. Actually, there have been some issues, what do you call them? Plans floated. It's being discussed all around the world.
We have a question here.
Yes.
It's not a question, it's a comment. Yours is getting your chin hair done, mine's getting the armpits waxed.
Put it in wax. Somehow that doesn't seem to follow it. But whatever, put it in writing. Put it in writing.
If everybody would just hold their seats a minute, there are a lot of flyers, there are plenty to go around, so let's wait until it's finished. And by the way, Loretta, I wanted to ask you, I have an amateur video I'm making to give to you. Is it okay if other people wanted to give this video to them?
I would be very happy to do this. You know, I got lucky. I retired when I was 50. I worked really hard. I had some good luck. I had some good smarts. And mostly I give these talks because this is not, you don't make a lot of money talking about death and dying. So please, share it. I would be happy.
Okay, if people want a copy of this, email me and I will have them next week.
Anything else? How many of you have written your advanced directives for health care? Right? Are they updated in the past 5 years? Yeah. Have you had the conversation? Yeah. The Conversation Project is a wonderful new website. It's on the resources list. And it was started by a journalist out of Boston named Ellen Goodman, and she's been backed by ABC News, because we're realizing more and more how important it is to have these conversations. There's a question.
Okay, this is more like a share rather than a question, but sometimes you don't know what things you'd like to have on your list until you see someone else go through it. And with my mom, I got to be there her last 2 years, and she was able to die at home. And I didn't know one of the things I'd like to have on my list until I saw her go through it is, it was someone she knew. Another nurse, my mom was a nurse who did home care, another nurse who was a home care nurse was the one who did the proclamation of you crossed. And she got that goodbye sweetly and a kiss on the forehead before she actually did the pronouncement. And so for me it was, I really want that last moment to be in the hands of tender, loving hands. Someone who knows me and cares about me.
Yeah, I think that's,
We have another question or comment here.
something else, that my friend Pauline, when she moved downside, I went to visit her one day, and I admired a picture on the wall, and she said, I said, oh, that's lovely. She said, oh, here, I'll put your name on it for when the time comes. And she took the picture down, and I said, oh, no, I was so embarrassed. No, that's okay. And she said, no. And she started to write on the label, and I didn't really like the picture that much, so I wasn't going to make a big deal out of it. And I said, no, that's all right. And I turned it around, there was a name already on it. I said, oh, Pauline, don't worry. She said, Loretta, don't you worry. We're not speaking anymore. Write my name on top of that name. So, start, label things. But she's right, Gary. This is Gary Fish, the author of...
Hi, there's one book out there that I suggest if you have got the courage or the guts to get, and it's called Final Gifts. That book there, if I hadn't read that, and it wasn't through the medical system that I got it, it was through a palliative care nurse who was at home recovering from surgery. And she told me I should read it as the primary caregiver. That book, I would have missed so much. And you can learn so much from watching a loved one die. If you only just look, listen, and observe, and don't try to tell them what to do.
Hi, I also worked in hospice for a long time as a volunteer. And one of the things that I thought, and he just brought it up, I think it's very important, is that not to impose our wish on how someone should die on another person. That to try to bring it out of them how they want to die. I mean, one of my failures at the beginning was, oh, they've got to do this, and I've got to read this prayer, and I've got to stop it. Go with them and let them die as they wish.
This is empowering for us to be able to do this. I mean, you don't have to worry about dying in a week from something. We have time to think about this. It's very empowering to plan your finale. Write your eulogy. It's a beautiful exercise to do anyhow. Take some time this week and write your eulogy. See what you come up with. Think about that, really. A death plan, and then you think about these things. Because it is, we project on each other. We make judgments. Oh, I wouldn't want that, so then you wouldn't want that. And that's what, this is where your kids come in. Your kids will not let you die. They will have everything done to you unless you've got your dots, your T's crossed and your dots dotted. Yes,
Most of you have heard me say before that I spent many years working in hospice and palliative care. And not all those residents in the hospice wanted me to be the one with them when they died. So when somebody asks you to come to be with them, or the family says, Dad is talking about you a lot, it's an honor and it's a privilege. And it's not only transforming, it's the biggest aha that there is in life for yourself and for them. And it's genuine caring.
Thank you. And if you can't be there, make space where you are. Be there emotionally and spiritually, because we can't always be there. And if they died before you get there, don't feel guilty. They didn't want you there.
The Tibetan Book of the Living and Dying, which many of you know, has around 12 pages of how to be with someone when that person is dying. And what I still remember from the last time I read it is, tell them you're going to be okay. Sometimes they're not letting go because they think you're not going to be okay, so tell them you're going to be okay.
Yes.
There's a good book, Die Broke by Steve Poland. When you said about kids, what we don't realize is that, oh yeah, in my will, I'll leave the money to my kids. Well, why not give the money to the kids while you're alive and help them out because they need it? Poland, Pollan. And I found the book here in my uncle's house in Ajijic, and I've read it about 3 times.
It's about living with an open hand, and that's part of it too.
I just want everybody to know I'm up with adoption.
And there's that too, charity. When you plan ahead, you can leave a certain amount of money to charities that you know need it. Besides that, and yes.
I too have worked with hospice for several years, and mostly as a home visitor, because the hospice where I live is all people who are kept at home. My experience, of course I was a stranger to most of these people, was that they really withdrew. And I think the hospice checked me out carefully beforehand to make sure I wasn't going to be evangelical, I'm happy to say. But they really just want your presence there. They don't want you interfering with their thought processes. And I found this true of my mother and father as well.
Thank you. You think about the chrysalis is a stage at the end of life, and it's a quiet stage because all the transformation is going on internally. And to be present, it's interesting, I did a research paper one of the studies surveyed the survivors of nursing home residents. And what they all said, the highest, most important thing for them was to be able to be there at the end of life, to just be there. And that's hard for us to do. We want to be busy. We want to be making soup or, changing bedding and doing things. And that's another practice, to just learn to sit still and be there. And it's a good practice to get us ready for when we're laying down in our chrysalis. Think about that. That is a stage.
I'm one of the fortunate people that who's 60, who has 2 parents, one in the 90s, one in the late 80s, who are still enjoying life, partying, and enjoying each other's company. And I know that's so rare. A fearful thing for me, and I guess something I do meditate and do send out healing prayers to them often, is knowing that they're going to go. Because they are the last, like you were saying. And keeping the gratefulness for all the time I've had with them. And to also know that my time's going to come. And I have to, and it's not now, but like you said, it could be tomorrow. But right now, today, it's not now. So I'm sure there's other people that are going through the kind of emotions that I go through. So it's kind of like an imbalance. Being grateful to have the people you love so much, your life is so long, and be healthy. And then also knowing it's going to happen.
We don't like uncomfortable emotions. We don't like them. And the slightest feeling we have that's bad, we have a drink or some chocolate or do something else to stop the feelings. The drugstores are full of rows after rows of pills that make us adjust the way we feel. And it's okay to have bad feelings and uncomfortable feelings. That is so loving. and healthy for us to feel that way. It is an act of love to feel the loss that you're going to experience before you have it. And this anticipatory grief is so useful. It's so useful. When we face sudden death, how many of you have had a sudden death in your lives? You know, you have no preparation. You are thrown off your pins. And it takes so much to get back on your feet from that. But when we're able to anticipate the loss and grieve this, it helps us grow. It helps us fill that cup that we need to fill. And it's a more gentle filling than having to do it, pulling yourself back up after a hard, radical, sudden loss. Just love them up. Love them up. I used to lick my mom sometimes. I said, I want to remember what you taste like. I said, one day, I remember sitting, I used to get in bed with her, which they don't like in the hospital. If you get in bed with a patient in the hospital, I did that once, my mom, and within a second, it was like there was a camera in the room. There was a nurse standing in the door with her hands on her, and we've been in the emergency room for 12 hours, I'd like to tell you, all night long. We get into a room, and I just crawled in bed with her. And she's standing there, and she said, you can't be in bed with her. I was so tired. And I said, what? She said, we rent the beds to the patients. And I was so exhausted. I didn't, so I got up, and, there's a chair about as comfortable as these in the corner. And then she walked out, and I felt so sad for her. What happened in our institution? What happened in that hospital that somebody told her something that she believed it was bad for me to be in bed with my mother who could have died that night? We need to change these attitudes and love them up. So I wanted to memorize her skin, and every time I touch me, I feel my nose. Thank you.
Your talk was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
As good teachers.
But I just wanted to say about being early in planning things. For some reason or other, I made up my will when I was very young. But I keep having to change it because everyone around me keeps dying. Now that gets hard. The lawyer said, are you back again?
Come on, along with me.
Honest goodness. So finally, and then things happen. Like my nephew married a second time, and I didn't exactly like his wife. So I thought, wow, that's my favorite nephew, but I don't like his wife. I mean, what do you do with your will then? Okay, I decided, I know what, I'm going to start giving things away now. And that's what I started doing. But I couldn't part with those doggone books and puzzles. They're like my friends, because they stay. Well, anyway, we had quite a few disasters, which were very strange for us in Pennsylvania, where I'm from. And what did I notice? Well, I think the government's a little slow. FEMA, whatever these things are called. Well, when I went by this one area, where the whole section, almost hit the door. See how fast it can happen? Better be ready. Well, I'm ready. I've come here now 5 times. This is an aside. And I think this will probably be my last birthday party, so I better have a big one. Well, now I've had 5. Well, the cobblestones became pretty difficult, and I said to my friends, I don't think I'll be back. I got a cane. There's always something to help you through something. But getting through so many people dying, I remembered my daddy, who adopted all 4 of our siblings with my Ukrainian mother after my Ukrainian father was gone. And when he raised us all of a sudden he had an operation, and we were all gone, and Mother said he was so lonely, and I think he decided to die. But my mother stayed by his side in the hospital constantly. She had coffee brought in, da-da-da-da-da. All of a sudden, she decided she'd go for coffee. When she went for coffee, he died. Now that tells me something. When my best friend, it's hard to say, 2 years ago, we used to discuss a lot. When we get over there, which one of us is going to know what's happening over there? How are we going to let each other know? But then all of a sudden, I came back from Mexico. And she said, Dorothy, she said, for crying out loud, they said I have cancer of the bowels. I said, what? And they gave me only a couple of months to live, and I tried that chemotherapy. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do it. I said, don't worry, I don't let them go up me, in me, examine me. Forget that stuff. When I'm ready to go, I'm out of here. Well, she said, doesn't look like you're ready to go, but I am. But what I'm concerned about, when she went into the rest home and I visited her, I'm afraid you're not going to let me go, and I know how strong your thought is. Wow! Well, I remembered my mother was my dad. So I said to her, I love you and I need you, but I love you more. I let you go.